Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's it's 10 minutes to midnight, so that means we are late. Yeah, but we are glad that we are here in the first place. So I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope you're enjoying your weekend, and it's almost done. It's almost done, or it is actually done. And we are back. It's a joy to be back as always. Thank you so much for those of you that have recently joined the community, those that have recently subscribed to the channel. We appreciate you a great deal, and we hope you get to enjoy your stay with us. Those of you that have been checking out our content, watching our short section, the videos that we put out last week and things like that, we do really appreciate you a great deal. So please keep doing that. Keep supporting what we do here, and yeah, we will have a good ride. Tonight, we'll be talking about the Milan Derby as I speak. It is returned for the second half. That game, AC Milan having a 1-0 lead. Remember, they won the first leg by a 1-0. Now, Pavis Estupinan was just, I think, returned not too far back from injury, did score his first goal for AC Milan, and it couldn't have been any better coming in the Milan Derby. So he gave AC Milan the lead, and it is 1-0 as we speak, going into the second stanza. It was a game of a few chances, if I'm being honest. AC Milan had another opportunity. I think it fell to Luka Modric. Couldn't keep it on the target. It was an attempt from long range and things like that. So, yeah. It's been that kind of game, really. Then we'll get to talk about Manchester City being too good for Newcastle yesterday, beating them by 3-1, and also beating them for the fourth time this season out of 5 different meetings across the entirety of the season. Omar Mamouche are being very electric in that one. Jeremy Doku, Savinho are all looking pretty good in as far as that game was concerned. Then we'll talk about there are some reports emerging that Roberto De Zerbi is keen on the Manchester United job. So anyways, so there's plenty indeed to talk about. Hi Kevi Kagai, how are you? You're saying Lolo. When you say Kagai, I think you have a specific or a special passion or love for cars. How are you doing? On this channel, it's the love for football, really. And I hope you do love football as well, because for us, it's quite the sport, really, or sports in general, really, but with a special bias for football. Then also, I want to send my special thanks to all of you that were part of last night's podcast. Thank you for making it worthwhile. We came a bit early. It was about 10:20 p.m. When we came live. Mehemet says hi. Mad Dog says hi. Hi, Mad Dog. Good to have you on the channel. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if it is your first time here, and help support what we do. Like I said, my name is Robert Kesakos, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. That's where we are streaming from, and it's 54 minutes past 11 p.m. East African time. As I speak, like I said, the Milan Derby is back for the second stanza, and it is still a 1-0 in favor of AC Milan, who also won the first leg by a 1-0. AC Milan under the charges of Massimiliano Allegri, who is returning for his second stint with the Italian Giants, while on the other side it's Christian Chivu in the dugout for Inter Milan. Then we'll also talk about Chelsea's victory over Wrexham. Wrexham must be really proud of their performance, because even at the tail end of that one in extra time, I think it was in the 23rd minute of extra time, they had scored the equalizer to make it 3-3. Albeit they were down to 10 men, but that goal was ruled out for offside. So very beautiful and commendable performance. You must, look at there. Inter Milan in that game have equally had a couple of chances here and there. There was in the first half, Mike Maignan, that's the AC Milan goalkeeper, also the French national team goalkeeper, did make a save from close range, and I can see, I think, was it Esposito trying to, force him into another save, or was it Esposito? Yeah, I think it was Esposito, the shot 94 there. It's been quite the long weekend. It's been quite a fruitful weekend. Depending on what side of the aisle you do fall under. I will get to talk about the FA Cup, quarterfinal draws. Those ones are slated for tomorrow. For those of you that are wondering, I know a lot of people are wondering, when are the draws and things like that. But yeah, among the teams that have already qualified for the quarterfinals is Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Southampton, Port Vale, and Leeds United. That means we are left with only one team, and that will be the winner between West Ham United and Brentford. That game will come tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. East African time on Monday Night Football for the FA Cup game. Then we'll have midweek fixtures for which will be in the UEFA Champions League for the round of 16 first legs there respectively for Tuesday and Wednesday. And that will be the chronology of events. Also, I want to send what's his name? It is eluding me, but there's a Ugandan that I must talk about. Let me see if I have that one on my speed dial here, on my saved. I think it's Jacob Q. Should be Jacob Kiplimo. Yes. I want to send my special congratulations to Jacob Kiplimo, who celebrated, or who set a new half marathon world record at 57 minutes point 20 seconds at the Lisbon half marathon. Another historic moment for Ugandan athletics and the world of distance running there. Jacob Kiplimo. Remember, Joshua Cheptegei is also transitioning into a long distance running, and I think he has a marathon coming up. Should be either this month or next month in London. I need to check with that. But congratulations, Jacob Kiplimo, there on that one. So the question is, where do we start it all? Because I think let's start with the Chelsea game. Really, I thought it was a very, very brilliant game there from Chelsea yesterday. And whereas Chelsea were good, I thought Wrexham will go down really, really proud of the kind of performance. Jan Sommer being forced into a save here quickly. So I'm following the Inter Milan AC Milan game over here on my screen. So in case you see me oftentimes looking in this direction, please bear in mind that that's a game that I'm following up on the other side of the screen. So like I was saying, Wrexham will be really, really proud of their performance against Chelsea. First of all, we know that the two clubs are miles apart in terms of squad building, in terms of squad team history, in terms of the winning culture and all that. We're talking about the Wrexham side who not too far back ago, or not so many years ago, were close to extinction, and then Ryan Reynolds, the Hollywood star, and Rob, I think, his partner, bought the club for only £2 million. I think it's in North Wales. A lot of people didn't know about Wrexham, unless you're a betting person that once in a while you had placed a few bets on it. Then it was found, I think, in 1864, one of the oldest football clubs there is. Present day now, I do not think they spent 5 years with it, or maybe thereabouts. I need to check. But present day, it is considered to be valued at about £500 million. Now, a lot of people will disagree with that because they're wondering to themselves, how do you go to 2 million, to being valued at £2 million just a few years ago, and now suddenly you're a 500, you're £500 million worth. Well, there's a number of factors. Ever since Ryan Reynolds and Rob bought the club, it's been success after success for them. They've gone through all the different ranks of, I think, the hierarchy of UK football, League One, League Two, League One, and present day they're in the Championship. So it's been sort of a promotion after promotion, and even where they are in the Championship, I don't think they're doing too bad. I need to check on the Championship table, but whereas you do not fancy that they will get promoted to next season. Hi, Pedri, how are you doing, my brother? Good to have you back. So whereas I do not think they will get promoted, they've been really competitive because they are sixth on that Championship log after 35 games played for them. They have 57 points. Of course, that's a good number of points adrift of Coventry City, who are at the summit of things with 74 points. Really, so it's something really, really proud to be. It's a very impressive story that you must follow up on. There's a documentary I need to watch about this Wrexham because I think it was done. So a lot of value has been brought to the club by Ryan Reynolds and his partner in terms of commercial deals, in terms of funds from football fans from across the globe, in terms of wanting to see this story, to see this club, and the friends of Ryan Reynolds from far and between coming to see the revolution take place. So in the context of yesterday's game, I thought it was one, they put up a very, very good performance. And as the statistics will show, you'll remember that later on in this game, they had, what's his name? The guy that was given a red card. He was Dobson. Yes, Dobson was given a red card. So that was in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. So the statistics I'm going to give you, bear in mind that they were down to 10 men for the extra time, because it was 2-2 in normal time, and Wrexham scored fast. So, excuse me, Chelsea had 7 shots on target, Wrexham had 5. 6 off target for Wrexham, excuse me, and 8 for Chelsea. Blocked shots was 8 for Wrexham and 6 for Chelsea. And Chelsea edged the possession to the tune of 68% compared to 32% of Wrexham, which in normal time I do not believe the gap was that big, really. So those are some of the key statistics that you would want to know. But in the 18th minute, I think it was was it Colin Doyle? Should be his name. Did provide the assist as Sam Smith squad to squad to make it 1-0 for the home side. And then, unfortunately, they considered an own goal by Arthur Okonkwo. That's the former Arsenal goalkeeper. For those of you that remember him at Arsenal, that was in the 40th minute. It was, I think, Alejandro Garnacho's attempt that is kept out and then deflected onto the goalkeeper before it hits the back of the net. And it was 1-1 going into halftime. So then Calm Doyle. So the name is not Colin Doyle, it's Calm Doyle. Yes, Calm Doyle, assist provider, turned goal scorer in the 78th minute to make it 2-1 for Wrexham, who thought perhaps that would be the goal that seals the tie for them. And what a story that would have been, really. But unfortunately, it was never meant to be, because only 4 minutes later, Chelsea restored parity with a goal from Joshua Achepong on the other side, and then the game went on that way until that red card from for Dobson, George Dobson. He got sent off. Initially, the referee had issued a yellow card for his dangerous tackle on Alejandro Garnacho, but upon VAR review, it was upgraded to a straight red card, and that's how he got himself sent off. So that meant they were reduced to 10 men, and then in the 96th minute, this is in extra time, Alejandro Garnacho scored to make it 3-2. Initially, he thought, or a lot of us thought, he had been in an offside position at the back post when he taps that ball into the back of the net, but it turns out he was onside. So he made it 3-2. And like I said, in the 114th minute of the game, Lewis Brandt, not Band. The name is Brunt. So I don't know why I was reading the U first and putting the R in between the U and the N, but it is Lewis Brunt, who thought had scored to restore parity for Wrexham. That goal I was telling you about in the preamble, but it was a beautiful goal, by the way. And then it was ruled out for offside because he had veered off an inch offside. And then in the 50th minute of stoppage time of extra time, Joao Pedro, thanks to an assist from Dario Esugo, who was providing his second assist of the night, having provided the one earlier on for Alejandro Garnacho. Meanwhile, he came off the bench, Dario Esugo, not returning not too far back ago from injury to give Joao Pedro, as Joao Pedro squad, to make it 4-2, and that was a goal that really cemented the tie for Chelsea. Joao Pedro seems to be a man in his glorious days with this Chelsea side, and he's very appreciative of Liam Rafinha. Apparently, he said something in the region. I'm not quoting him directly, but something in the region that had he been playing under Liam Rafinha over the last 3 seasons that he's been in the Premier League, perhaps he will be challenging for the Ballon d'Or. But anyway, only time will tell. But all I can tell you is his numbers have been really impressive this season for Chelsea across all competitions. I think he has about 14 goals in the Premier League with 5 assists. That is in 29 appearances. That means that's a 19 goal involvement in, a 19 goal involvement, the highest he's ever had in a Premier League season, because last season he scored 10 goals and provided 6 assists, which was a 16 goal involvement in Brighton colours, while in his debut campaign, he had scored 9 goals and provided only 3 assists. So we're talking about the 24-year-old Brazilian that Chelsea signed in the summer for about 60 million quid. So 14 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League in 29 appearances is really good. He scored a hat-trick in his last league outing against Aston Villa. And then in the EFL Cup, he only had an assist before Chelsea's exit. And now he has 3 goals in the UEFA Champions League. That means, and then, I thought Denzel Dumfries was close to, restoring parity for Inter Milan, but Mike Maignan was in position to gather that. So then in the UEFA Champions League in 6 games, he has 3 goals. Remember, he scored a brace, I think, against Napoli away in Naples at the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium on match day 8 of the UEFA Champions League. And he's looking really in sharp form ahead of their trip away to Parc des Princes in France, where they will be playing Paris Saint-Germain, I think next week. Should be next week on Wednesday. Yes, next week on Wednesday for that first leg of the of the round of 16. And yeah, he's been one of the standout players for Chelsea this campaign, if not the absolute best, for where Cole Palmer sort of fizzled in terms of form. And in addition to his individual struggles with injuries, it is in Joao Pedro that has really carried this team on his shoulders. That among other things. That the victory in itself means that so far, I think Liam Rafinha has taken charge of Chelsea, I think in about 10 games? No, should be more than 10 games. But he's only lost 3. And all those 3 losses were against Arsenal, 1 in the Premier League and 2 in the EFL Cup semi-finals, home and away. Then in the UEFA Champions League, he won 2 games. Let's see. He's won 5 in the Premier League. Yes. And then he's drawn 2 in the Premier League. So that's his record. So you can do the math there. If 5 wins, that's 7 games in the Premier League, 3, 2 in the other competition. I think about 10 games, but he's only lost 3. So it's been a good start, really, for Liam Rafinha in Chelsea colours or in the Chelsea dugout. But like I said, Ryan Reynolds was also speaking in the aftermath of that game, and he said he was really proud of his side and of how they performed against a very sizable or a giant like Chelsea. He knows that they are miles apart of each other in the context of the measurement of battles. I won't go into the Arsenal game. We did the preview for that one yesterday, for those of you that were part of the broadcast. So allow me move on to the Man City game. Man City, excuse me. Oh, yes, I needed to adjust my seat. Man City are 3-1 winners away to St. James's Park at Newcastle. Really, Harvey Barnes scoring an 18th minute goal to give Newcastle the lead. But that lead was later cancelled out by an easy tap-in from Savinho. I think Aaron Ramsdale will blame himself for failing to gather that Jeremy Doku cross that came through, ricocheted through, a bunch of legs and arms in there, in that 16 yards box before it landed to Savinho, who tapped it in the back of the net to restore parity going into halftime. So at halftime, it was 1-1. And then in the 47th minute, that was 2 minutes after the restart, Omar Mamosh again lashed onto a fumbled ball in the area to make it 2-1 for Manchester City. Meanwhile, Pep Guardiola got himself a yellow card in that one. I think he was protesting a decision for a foul on Jeremy Doku, for which he said he was not trying to ask for a yellow card. All he did was try to defend his team. And then he got booked for it. That means he's accumulated 6 yellow cards as a manager, which means he will be suspended for 2 games. Therefore, do not expect to see him on the touchline in their next 2 Premier League games. I don't remember who their next opponents are in as far as match day 30 will be concerned, but let me try to remember. Yes, they play against West Ham. The next game will be against West Ham United, so that will be next Saturday. So he will not be on the touchline. It will be his assistant, Pep Linders. I do suspect that will be on the touchline, and then also for their away game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League. So he won't be available for that. That means, in as far as the Premier League is concerned, he will return on the touchline for their game against Arsenal. That will be on the April 19th. But prior to that, he will have also returned for their EFL Cup final at Wembley against the same side, Arsenal. So you can see that the two sides have to play each other in less than a month, because those 2 games are about 3 weeks apart. So that's the story with Manchester City or Pep Guardiola. I really, really loved that. So in the 65th minute, Matthias Nunes provided the assistance. Omar Mamosh fired in a thunderbolt of a shot to make it 3-1 in favor of the visitors. A very, very incredible performance. First of all, the first half in itself was really, really a good performance from both sides. It did feel like, it almost felt like we were watching, an FA Cup final. For me, the game in itself, the context or the entertainment it offered, the end-to-end kind of fall through, particularly in the first half, was almost embodiment of a final itself. Now, of course, Man City edged it we're edging it still because quality is on their side. We know that they have better quality and players that have been, I don't want to say together for a longer time, but overall, in terms of the experience of Pep Guardiola, how good he is as a manager, and then when you compare the squad qualities, I thought Man City were always going to be miles apart, and that really showed. But it was quite a very, very entertaining, game, because even James Trafford had a couple of, attempts to keep out in as far as Newcastle came at him. So when you look at the statistics, Newcastle had 4 shots on target compared to Man City's 8. That speaks to the overall dominancy for Man City. 5 off target for Newcastle and 7 for Man City. Blocked shots were 2 for Newcastle and 6 for Man City, who edged possession to the tune of 63% compared to 37% over Newcastle. Really, so when it comes to, let's say, corners, you had 9 corner kicks for Man City and only 3 for Newcastle. So that tells you the lack of balance or contest in the second half particularly. But in the first half, it was a very, very electric sort of end-to-end kind of game that any football fan would have loved or enjoyed to watch on the night. So, and that result put Man City through to the quarterfinals. Like I've told you, that Liverpool will kick off with Liverpool will beat up against Wolverhampton Wanderers by 3 goals to 1. in the FA Cup. Andy Robertson, Mohamed Salah, and Curtis Jones, they are scoring, while Wang Hee-chan scored what turned out to be a mere consolation. Meanwhile, Carlos Augusto has gone off for an injured Asian Inter Milan player. So, like I was saying, Wang Hee-chan scored the consolation for Liverpool on that one. So, but Liverpool went through winning 3-1. And then we followed it up with a 2-1 victory from Arsenal. I think Noni Madueke and Ebeleche is scoring in that one, while Will Evans scored in the 50th minute, what was an equalizer at the time, but they ended up getting knocked out. Then we followed it with the Chelsea 4-2 victory over Wrexham. We also had that 3-1 victory for Man City over Newcastle. Then today, in as far as today's fixtures were concerned, I was really, really blown away. And I prayed for this kind of thing because I did not want the quarterfinals to have all teams from the Premier League, really. So Port Vale beat up against Sunderland by 2-1. Ben Waine, the goal scorer in the 28th minute for that one, while Fulham was stunned by Southampton, who beat them by a goal to nil. A penalty from Ross Stewart in the 91st minute, or the first minute of stoppage time, really was what decided a very, very dominant Fulham performance, but they could not, get the ball to cross the line. And usually, I've always said this, football can be a sport of small margins. Even on the other side, you had Sunderland dominating in their performance, but they could not put the ball over the line, and therefore they got knocked out. And then in the late kickoff today at 7:30 p.m., Leeds United beat up against Norwich City by 3-0. Sean Longstaff, Gabriel Goodmanson, and Jorel Piero were the goal scorers in the 32nd minute, 43rd minutes, and the 85th minutes respectively, as Leeds United advanced to the quarterfinals. And the last game of the round of 16 is going to be between West Ham United and Brentford. And then, but prior to that game, we will have had the draws, because the FA Cup draws for the quarterfinals are going to be conducted on Monday the 9th of March at about, I think it will be about 5 minutes past 4 p.m. East African time, and 7:05. No, actually, is it? Should be, let me see. Should be around 10:05. Yes, should be around 10:05 East African time, or 11:05, around there. But they will be conducted tomorrow, because it will be 7:05 British time, or whatever it is called, really. So look out for those draws. Now, like I said, personally, I was praying for this kind of results, that a couple of teams get stunned. And whereas I thought, yeah, Chelsea would be one of those, I did not expect them to lose, but I had hoped perhaps Wrexham would be one of those that go through. Port Vale, tremendous. Southampton, good. Now, all the teams that have gone through, if you're a Premier League team, you didn't want a Premier League opponent, but let's be honest, majority of the teams that have gone through are Premier League teams. I expect a big classic in the quarterfinals, where you have Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal. One of those four will be facing the other. And then Southampton. But the prayer is going to be this way, particularly for all those four teams, but more importantly for Man City and Arsenal. Why? Because they are the two teams in the Premier League title race. If those teams, you'll be praying for a lesser opponent because of the demands it puts on your squad, especially bearing in mind that Man City and Arsenal are both still fighting for the quadruple. They all have a chance to win the quadruple this season. Whether they will go ahead and achieve it is a whole different story. But at least they are still in it. Both sides are fighting for the Premier League title. They are still in the UEFA Champions League. They are still in the FA Cup, and they are the ones playing the finals of the EFL Cup. Now, the one thing you can guarantee is that one of them cannot end their season trophyless by the virtue of being in that final. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, in terms of the longer spell of the season, for which we have about maybe nearly 3 months left to it, you assess it and think to yourself, if you're Arsenal or Man City, you'd want to avoid Arsenal. Okay, if you're Arsenal, you want to avoid Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool. You'd want to avoid maybe even Leeds, or either West Ham and Brentford. You'd want to avoid them. In other words, you'd be hoping for Southampton or Port Vale. Why? Because whereas it doesn't necessarily make the game easier, but they are lesser of an opponent compared to the others. 2, if you're Man City, you'd want to avoid Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Leeds, West Ham or Brentford because of the extended demands that it puts on your squad. So, for example, if you're Arsenal and you booked against Man City or Chelsea or Liverpool, chances are you're not going to start with the lineup that Arsenal started with yesterday at Mansfield Town, where they played the back three with Mali Salman in there, Christian Mosquera, who I thought struggled a bit, and Ricardo Carafiori was in there. Then, Max Doman, Christian Nogard playing, I think, alongside Kai Havertz, or at one point, Leandro Trossard in that midfield, Gabriel Jesus with his muted performance. Now, those ones would start. But particularly, when you look at players like Max Doman, who I think, by the way, should be trusted more by Mikel Arteta to get more minutes, especially in these underwhelming performances from the likes of Gabriel Martinelli, from the likes of Leandro Trossard in recent times. Really, I think he's a player that you can throw on there. Maybe not start, but give him the last 20 minutes or so, depending on the circumstances of the game. Because if you're leading by 2-0 and you're trying to do your game management, maybe he's not the player you may look at too. But if you're in comfortable lead, then maybe you want more goals. He's a player that you can throw on there to help you challenge the opponent's defense, because he really, really look brilliant. Now, of course, the disadvantage with him is that his counter press is almost non-existent. He's not going to help you much in that department or in that aspect. But that is something that, his teammates must be aware of if they're going to play with him. So, in other words, if you get a team like Port Vale, you have the luxury of playing your lower options. And given the injuries, the fatigue that is beginning to build up with that Arsenal team and everything in that line, really, you must be hoping and praying for a lesser opponent, because any Premier League opponent, whether it's a West Ham, whether it's a Brentford that go through, whether it's a Leeds United, whether it's a Chelsea, or even if or Liverpool, a Chelsea or Man City, that game is going to be very, very demanding. Yes, it's a quarterfinal, it's a one-off game, but my hope here is that you pray for one of those. When you pray for one of those, basically what you end up with is perhaps you go through for the semi-finals, and we know the semi-finals are played at Wembley, at a neutral ground, Excuse me. And when it comes to the semi-finals, whether you play Man City, whether you play Chelsea, whether you play Liverpool, regardless of who you book, it matters less, because it's the second last stage of the competition, and it's entirely worth it. And maybe by the time that comes, that game would have to be played in early May, either early May or something, or late April, thereabout, something like that. So really, you would fancy to be in that kind of position, really. I think that would be the prayer for those teams. And now, Chelsea and Liverpool are not much different The situation that I've just read you through for Arsenal and Man City, and what their prayers would be, because Chelsea and Liverpool are pursuing or pushing for a top 4 finish. They are both still in the UEFA Champions League, and of course, they are still in the FA Cup now. Given the demands of that on their squads, and this is very typical, or this is very particular for Liverpool. The reason as to why I single out Liverpool is because I saw them against Wolverhampton Wanderers. They literally had to bring their first team the entirety of their first team, to the extent that Dominic Soboslai was playing at right back. You had Virgil van Dijk in there, you had Alson there, you had McAllister in there. No, I think it was Gravenberch. Gravenberch, McAllister there, Curtis Jones. Because they've had a couple of injuries here and there, and then their squad is a bit small. So you'd want a lesser opponent who is not going to strain your squad. For example, if you're Liverpool and you book, let's say, Port Vale, you'll be comfortable playing with the Georgie Mamadashvili. You'll be comfortable playing a Joe Gomez alongside, let's say, Ibrahim Konate, because they do not have options in terms of defenders. You play your Andy Robertson at left back. You play, maybe there's a youngster at Liverpool that Anas Slaughter has been questioned multiple times why he's not given game time. Then midfield, because you do not have Wataru Endo, you'll have to go for a Gravenberch, let's say, alongside the Curtis Jones, and then alongside who? Nyoni. Then you go Chiesa, Riongo Moha, and maybe an Ektike to play, or maybe at that point Isak is returned, and you sort of get these other players a bit rested in sort of the final stretch of the season as you push for that a top 4 finish. So those are the things or the responsibilities of their squads. Chelsea, not too far apart. Now, the difference between Liverpool and Chelsea is that Chelsea have squad depth. Their problem is with injuries. As we speak, Romeo Lavia, Dario Esugo have just returned from injuries. I do not know how long they will stay fit, and particularly for Romeo Lavia. Then, at least for them, they have options. When it comes to defenders, Bernard Badiashile, Joshua Achepong, Trevor Chalobah, Tosin Aderabio, Levi Cole is up at Wesley Fofana, Richard James, Malo Gusto, Joel Hato, Marco Correa. You can see that they have multiple players in each position. When you come to their midfield, Caicedo, Esugo, Romeo Lavia, Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, Andre Santos. Then forward, you have Pedro Neto, Gittens, still out injured, but will be back soon. Joao Pedro, Liam Delap, Garnacho, they have the numbers really. They do have the numbers in comparison to Liverpool. So for Chelsea, I wouldn't be too worried regardless of who they book. Of course, who you book determines what squad you're able to field or what team you do field. But I'm more concerned for Liverpool than I would be for Chelsea when it comes to overstretching their squad. The beauty for both of them is that they are only in 3 competitions. So again, that gives them a bit of breathing room in terms of their squad responsibilities. But the other two, for Man City and Arsenal, those two have a crucial game between each other on March the 22nd. And that's the climax of the EFL Cup, which is going to mean a lot, significantly a lot for both sides. Because I can tell you for a fact here, if Arsenal win it, it will be so good for them in terms of their belief, in terms of their conviction, and their last push for all the other competitions they may still be involved in at that point. If Man City win it, you're going to hear this narrative that, Arsenal have started to crumble away, it's going to dent their belief. And it is true, losing that final could dent their beliefs and convictions about the pursuance of other, silverware. But because Man City have won the treble before, have won this competition before, 4 consecutive times. That was 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So the narrative will be, they're good, but not good enough. Look at how they got turned by Man City in the final and things like that. Man City are the better team, which they could be, depending on how you look at it. It's subjective. And, so there will be a certain narrative against Arsenal if they were to lose that final, So that's why it's going to be a very, very significant game. And then the narrative to the negative is less if Man City lose it. But if Arsenal lose it, oh my God, everybody will be looking to pick on them. Everybody will look to pick on them. You hear arguments of they did not. They went there, too cautious. They didn't play like they wanted to win it. That kind of narrative. You just give it time. Just give it time. Depending on how that final goes, you and I will be witnesses to whatever the results will be at the tail end of that. So, really. Meanwhile, the Milan Derby is still a 0-0 in favor of AC Milan. So not much has changed from there. So that's why you've not received any update from me for the last many minutes. But it is still ongoing there. Christian Pulisic has run the longest, 10.5 kilometers. Zelinski there with 9.8 so far, 83 minutes played. And I think he's being substituted off there. Christian Pulisic is coming off for Christopher Nkunku, the former Chelsea and RB Leipzig forward. So yeah, that's all you need to know about this FA Cup. So yeah, we can only wish all the teams the best of the best that are still in the competition, and we'll be waiting to hear what the story will be, or once those draws are done, when the games will be played. So yeah, 7:05 p.m. So 7, 8, 9, around 10:05. Yeah, East African time. That's when you should expect them on TNT. So, and then, yes, and then the quarterfinals for the teams that go through will be played on the first weekend upon the return from the March international break. That will be Saturday, 4th April, and Sunday, 5th April. So, after Man United play their game, I think, because Man United have been so lucky this season, they play one, for example, they played last week in midweek and got beat by Newcastle. Their next game is on Sunday, the 15th. That's how many days? I don't know, 10, 11, 12 days of rest. Now, after playing Aston Villa on Sunday, Man United will have their next game against FC Bournemouth on the 20th of March. After 20th of March, they will not play a game of football until the 13th of April. Yes, that is what? In 23 days? That's 3 weeks. Man United won't play a game of football. Now, I saw Mark Goldbridge talking about this, and he was so pissed. Why? Because and I don't know if I should call it selective outrage. Now, it is true, I have concerns, just like everybody else, about the whole UK football calendar and how games are organized and the impact it has on teams and etc. For example, they do not move games for their teams that are going to play in the Champions League. Let's say move them to a Friday or a Saturday early kickoff or earlier kickoffs and things like that. They rarely do that for the teams that are playing in Europe. And then you have a whole, fixture congestion. There's no winter break and that kind of thing. But Mark Goldbridge was so pissed at this fixture arrangement because the FA Cup quarterfinals get to be played on the first weekend of April upon players' return from the international break. Now, dear Mark Goldbridge, I do not think it is the fault of the fixture schedulers that Man United got knocked out of the FA Cup by Brighton. Because if Man United were still in it, I do not think you'll have the same sentiments that you do have about that sort of fixture scheduling. Because you would be happy as a Man United fan that you have a game to play on the 14th on the 4th or 5th of April. Now, the argument or school of argument that I can listen to is the question of, for teams that are not still in the FA Cup, and why can't they have some of their fixtures reorganized? I'll give you an example. The same way you had Arsenal's match day 31 fixture, 31 or 32. No, match day 31 fixture that they were supposed to play against Wolves moved to, weeks earlier on because of that EFL Cup final, is the same way you can look through that calendar and say, okay, look here, how many Premier League teams are still left in the competition? There's about 5 of them. No, 5 or 6. 6 teams. So if 6 teams, Premier League teams, are still left in the FA Cup, what that implies is you have 14 Premier League teams that are not still in the competition. How many games are played by 14 teams? That's as many as 7 games. Now, so if there is any fixture amongst those teams, for as long as the fixture is not supposed to be the final match of, let's say, the season, have them reorganized and be played earlier on, Now, of course, the reason as to why they do not do that, it's not because they do not have the idea or they do not look at it that way. Because when teams are playing the semi-finals, in the FA Cup, you have teams playing the Premier League. But it's all to sort of protect the sort of visibility and media attention around the FA Cup. Because if you have, let's say, FA Cup games at the quarterfinals and you have Premier League games going on at the same weekend, you may have a lot of media attention on the Premier League games than you have it on the FA Cup. And here, the Emirates FA Cup needs the publicity, but also the respect that it is the oldest competition in UK football or English football. So I understand that bit, but for me, I would be of the view that at least some of those games be sort of rearranged and then you have them played, on that weekend, especially bearing in mind that players would have been away for 2 weeks of the international break. And I mean, do you know what that is going to mean for teams that do not have many players going away for international break? Because unless you're playing in the World Cup playoffs, all the other competitions during that international break that you may be playing can sort of wait or are not going to be on the line, really. So, and and sometimes this is the undesirable side of being part of an elite team. Because when you look at Man City, when you look at Arsenal, when you look at Liverpool, Chelsea, those kinds of teams, a lot of their players who are players that are critical to everything they do across the campaign, a lot of those players get summoned to their respective national teams unless they are injured. So, whereas you would hope that the international break can offer you a breather for, giving your players a bit of a rest, a couple of days off, and maybe they take 3 or 4 days off before they come back for training and sort of recuperate that sort of energy. Look at Arsenal. The other day, for those of you that follow the channel, we did I put out a video in which I was assessing my worries about Arsenal for the remainder of the season. And in that video, I talked about fatigue. When I talk about fatigue, and I sampled out particularly 3 players. You have Declan Rice, you have Martin Zubimendi, you have Yohan Timber. Yohan Timber is a starter with the national team. Declan Rice, same applies for the English football team. And Martin Zubimendi for the Spanish national team. Now, if you're an Arsenal fan, your prayer would be that when they go for the national team at Spain, Rodri gets to play. And that's as selfish as an Arsenal fan would have the prayer. But also a Man City sort of fan will be praying for the same, that Zubimendi is the one that gets played, and then Rodri is not played as much. For them to have a bit of a breather, a bit of a rest, So those are some of the prayers that those respective teams carry. For example, if you're an Arsenal fan, I do not think you'd want Kai Havertz being summoned to the German national team because he's just returned from injury. He's been in and out of, through injury and things like that. So you'd want him to have a bit of more rest, a bit of more training, also to get much fitter and things like that to help you see out the remainder of the season. And that sort of element or kind of thing. You'd want a Gabriel Magalhaes to sort of rest a bit, and William Saliba to rest a bit. Even William Saliba has had multiple knocks throughout the campaign. Gabriel Magalhaes, you rest assured. As Saliba goes to France, Magalhaes is going to go with the Brazil national team. And, and majority of these national teams are going to be playing international friendlies in preparation for the World Cup. And meanwhile, AC Inter Milan had squad here to restore parity, but I think the whistle had gone. The whistle from the referee had gone, and therefore he's having a chat with those players. So the point so in other words, the international break, and by the way, the international break in itself is a double-edged sword, because sometimes clubs send their fully fit, okay players, and they return injured. They return with injuries. We've seen that with so many players. We've seen it with the likes of Martin Odegaard last season. I think he got injured for that ankle injury. We know about it. Actually, clubs literally have their hearts in their mouths when players go away for the international break, especially at this critical stage of the season. Managers are sort of kept on their toes, really. They watch their players play in some of these games. Now, the importance of some of these games that they get to play in is very minute. For example, if you're playing a friendly in preparation for the World Cup that is still 2.5 months away, I mean, there are players that you already assured of being part of your team or are locked-in starters for a team. For example, I who supports the Brazil national team, I know for a fact that Alson Ramsey-Specker is going to be in goal. I know that Marquinhos is going to play alongside Gabriel Magalhaes for our centre-back pairing. Then I know for a fact that that midfield, they want Bruno Guimaraes to start alongside Casemiro for a double pivot. Now, of course, the Jolintons are not starters, in my opinion, the Andre Santoses of this world. So, meanwhile, Inter Milan are really, really pushing for an equalizer in this one. We're into the final minute of stoppage time. 5 minutes were added, but it's still eluding them. So, when you have those players that you're already assured about, you're better off summoning all these other players that you either have second thoughts about or you want to try out and test out, and it's not what, as you make up your mind. But then managers go for these friendlies and they want to play them like they're playing in the semi-finals of the UEFA Nations League, or at least the last game of the qualifiers of the Euros before they've qualified and things like that. So it's something that they have to deal with. But this could be a huge win for AC Milan. It's only a few seconds left to play, depending on what the referee will decide. But if they can win here, that means they will have completed the double in the Italian Serie A over Inter Milan, but also because it takes them to 60 points. That's AC Milan in second place behind Inter Milan, who are 10 points ahead of them coming into this game. That reduces the gap from 10 to 7 points. So it's game over. It's finished 1-0, and you can see the AC Milan players, celebrating a very, very significant win in the Milan Derby. So that means they've completed the double against their rivals in Inter Milan. So that goal by Pavis Estupinan from the first half in the 35th minute is what decided the tie. So, like I said, the implications for that on the table is that Inter Milan, as a point lead at the summit of the standings, is trimmed to 7 points with 10 games left to play there. Then tomorrow there's a game between Sassuolo and Lazio in the Italian Serie A. So, but in third place is Napoli with 56 points. Como come fourth with 51 points. Como, I think, beat up Grace Cagliari over the weekend by 2-1. AC Roma at 51 points in fifth place, while Juventus are sixth with 50 points. There, Atlanta with 45 points. There, Bologna with 39. That completes the top 8. So, and then in the relegation battle is Cremonese, Hellas Verona, and Pisa in 20th place there. So really, those are the standings of the Italian Serie A and what that result means for AC Milan. Then in the Spanish La Liga, as we speak, Deportivo Alves are leading Valencia by 2-1. That game is in the 83rd minute, while Espanyol tomorrow will be up against Rio Oviedo. Then, yeah, that's from Europe's, major leagues. Yesterday, Barcelona beat up against Athletic Bilbao by 0-0. That goal scored by Lamine Yamal in a game of missed chances and close calls. There's a ball that Joao Cancelo was trying to clear that hit the corner of the crossbar or the frame. So then there was sort of a flick. A flick, was it Fermin Lopez or Ferran Torres, one of the two, from a corner kick by Marcus Rashford. Both sides created chances. Inaki Williams missed a brilliant header, what would have been a brilliant header. I think the ball ended up hitting his shoulder or something as he tried to head it. It was another missed opportunity. So it was a game of missed opportunities, really, as Barcelona won by 0-0 to restore their 4 points lead at the summit of the Spanish La Liga standings, following Real Madrid's 2-1 victory over Celta Vigo a day earlier. So really, 27 games played in the Spanish La Liga. That means there's 11 games left to play in that one until the end of the season. So yeah, that is how things look like in the Italian Serie A and in the Spanish La Liga. Then today, in the other results, Villarreal beat up against Elche by 2-1. Getafe beat Real Betis by 2-0. Sevilla and Rayo Vallecano ended in a 1-1 draw, while in the German Bundesliga, St. Pauli and Eintracht Frankfurt shared the spoils in a goalless draw, while Werder Bremen beat up against Union Berlin by 4-1. Speaking of the German Bundesliga, of course, Bayern Munich lead the table with 11 points, with 11 points, 66 points compared to 55 of Borussia Dortmund in second place. Teams have played 25 games there. Remember, for them, they do not play 38 games. They play 34 games. Yes, because it's an 18-team log there. So you have to subtract off the 4 fixtures. So if they play 34, that means they have about 9 fixtures are left to play until the end of the season. Like I said earlier on, yesterday, the writing is on the wall. Bayern Munich will be walking away with the German Bundesliga. Then the rest for the UEFA Champions League is on for Borussia Dortmund, Hoffenheim, VfB Stuttgart, then Europa League places, that's RB Leipzig, and then the UEFA Conference League, Bayer Leverkusen are in there. So really, that's where the battles are. Then yesterday also we talked about Monaco beating up against PSG in the French League 1, but before we get there, in the other results are from the Italian Serie A, Lecce beat Cremonese by 2-1. Bologna lost to Hellas Verona by 2-1. Fiorentina and Parma shared the spoils in a goalless draw, while Genoa beat AC Roma by 2-1. Then in the French League 1, Lens beat Metis by 3-0. Brest beat Le Havre by 2-0. Lille and Lorient settled for a 1-1 draw, while Stade Rennes went away to Nice and beat them by 4-0. Lyon and Paris FC shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw. Meanwhile, that victory for RC Lens puts them within a point behind PSG, who have 57 points, whilst Lens have 56 points. 25 games played in the league there, and because there's a gap of, I think, about 10 points between Lens and Marseille in third place. Now, equally, they play 34 games, so 9 games left to play until the end of the season. Will PSG retain the French League 1 title? That remains to be seen, but RC Lens are really, really breathing down their necks because, like I said, they lost their 4th game of the season as they lost to Monaco by 3-1 yesterday. So, in a very, very brilliant performance for AC Monaco, really. Anyways, so that's that from that side. What else? Oh, yes. I told you about Roberto Di Zerbi. Yes. Roberto Di Zerbi is apparently keen on the Manchester United job. That's according to TNT Sport. The former Brighton and Hove as well as Olympic Marseille manager is keen on the Manchester United manager. Now, the question I do put to you Man United fans is one. Do you want a tactical manager, a manager that is obsessed with tactics, or do you want a gentleman, a man manager, a more like a Carlo Ancelotti? It doesn't mean those managers are not good with tactics or anything. It simply means they are not as obsessed with the tactics of the game as you'd have the Pep Guardiolas of this world and things like that. So really, so he is keen on the Manchester United job. Whether he will be up for consideration in the summer remains to be seen, but we'll wait to see as things go. We'll wait and see how things go in that regard. But yeah, Man United fans, we'll keep our ears to the ground when it comes to when it comes to those managerial appointment rumors. Then Arsenal, according to Fabrizio Romano, will turn Piero Hincapié's deal into a permanent move in June. It was never in doubt, according to Fabrizio Romano. Deal was structured on initial loan for financial fair play for financial fair play reasons, but always seen as a permanent move, similar to that of David Raya. For those of you that remember, David Raya joined Arsenal in this for the 2023-2024 Premier League campaign, initially on loan from Brentford, having signed a contract year extension with Brentford and then joined permanently in a £27 million move after Arsenal had paid about £3 million for his loan move. So there's that. Then also, this is regarding Arsenal ahead of the UEFA Champions League game against Bayer Leverkusen. Ricardo Carafiori is a doubt with the hamstring issue that he sustained in that FA Cup victory against Mansfield Town. Leandro Trossard with the knock, so he's a bit of a doubt. William Saliba has an ankle issue, so it's still bothering him. We do not know whether he will have returned. Ben White is still a doubt with that thigh injury, while Martin Odegaard's knee continues to sort of nag. We will have to wait and see, but he's expected to return later in March. Chances, there's been rumors that he wants to be available for the final between Manchester City and Arsenal in the EFL Cup final at Wembley. And then Mikel Merino is also still out following that surgery on his right foot. So he has a broken foot. So Arsenal fans are really hoping he returns on time. Now, again, the absence of some of these players is what we're talking about in my worries about Arsenal, is that injuries at this point in the season is one of the things you want to avoid, because it simply means that your options are reduced and therefore you're going to put more pressure on the remaining players, especially when it comes to trusted starters and things like that. So we know how critical, because all these players enlisted here are arguably starters on any given day in an Arsenal shirt, maybe Mikel Merino, but it depends on the game, but even he would be a starter. I was watching, I think, a quick fire among Arsenal players, and they were asked who is likely in the squad to become a manager, and they said Mikel Merino. Not that was surprising, but it was interesting to hear that both there were two players being asked. I think one was Gabriel Martinelli, and the other was Noni Madueke, and they both said the same thing. So I thought it was quite interesting that they both thought the same player. Meanwhile, young Africans beat Tanzanians Police by 7 goals to 0. Alan Okera among the goal scorers in that one there. Anyways, guys, allow me to wrap it up here and wish you a blessed night. It's been 1 hour of us doing this. Let's do this again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Stay blessed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.